Lance Hall here for Let's Discuss with Lance Hall. Happy to welcome Chris Impellitteri to the program tonight. How you doing, Chris?
I'm doing very well, Lance. Thanks for having me.
Excellent. I appreciate you taking my call. New album, Nature the Beast, coming out October 12th on Frontiers Records here in the States. And I got to tell you, Chris, I've heard an advanced copy, and I'm excited for everybody to get to hear this thing. You've got to be.
Yeah, hey, man, thanks. I appreciate hearing that from you. Yeah, we're really happy with the new record. I mean, most artists are always going to say that. But we had so much fun doing this. You know, this record has so much energy and, you know, fire, and it's exciting. And we've been playing it for a lot of industry people. They've been freaking out over it. So for us as musicians and obviously the creators of it, it's much better to hear that than the alternative. So yeah, man, we're off to a great start. But it's really not about. I mean, I really don't care about, you know, if it becomes this gazillion selling record. This is more about part of our legacy. You know, this record is something that I think is going to be remembered for at least by metal people and fans of hard rock and metal and guitar and all this stuff. I think this is something that's going to touch them deeply, and they'll probably remember it for many years to come. I know I will. I'm having a blast with this.
Cool. Let's talk about the band for a sec. You got Rob Rock, of course, on vocals, James Pulley on bass, and is it John Detty on drums?
Yeah, John Detty on drums. PT did a little bit of it, but yeah, that's the nucleus. Pretty much the same thing we did on the Venom record.
Cool, excellent. So, and this, I understand some of the songs from Venom carried over to Nature of the Beast. You had a few.
Yeah, I think songs. Well, we had. When I say carried over, I got to be careful with that. I mean, the initial ideas of the songs, the skeleton, was kind of developed towards the latter part of doing Venom, like songs like "Run for Your Life." I think Masquerade was another one. You know, it's like, oh, these are really cool riffs. We got to develop those into something. And that's kind of like when we were writing Nature of the Beast. I remember that had kind of rough outlines or demos of the ideas. And then, of course, they took on a life of their own during the writing process and recording of Nature of the Beast.
Cool. Let's talk about the album cover for a moment. This is a great cover, great graphics, great picture. You a little superstitious about having the names on the tombstones, though? I got to ask about that.
No, well, we died about 5,000 years ago, so, you know.
So you're good.
No, I thought it was hilarious. It said, please kill us. It was like, so I figured, you know, for all the critics that hate us, they're going to love it. They killed us finally.
There you go. Was the cover your idea, an outside person, or?
Yeah, no, it was kind of conceptually my idea with the other guys. You know, this record really, I mean, for me, listen, I mean, the 15-year-old is really active on this record.
Yeah.
Like my 15-year-old inner self, big time, is all over this record. Excellent. You know, just that little, you know, that kid who just loves metal and, you know, and playing this stuff and creating it. And also what kind of struck me as being cool when I was 15 years old, bands like, you know, early Maiden and Judas Priest, you know, they have those kind of cool covers.
Yeah.
You know, and a lot of that, I can hear that in this record, a lot of that stuff. You know, Ozzy with Randy Rhoads, Diary of a Madman, you know, the crazy stuff. So the cover kind of depicts that as well. Yeah. And we have two different covers. One in Japan is completely different.
Oh, really?
Same kind of theory. Yeah, it's really, they did a great job too. But both covers are really awesome, at least in my opinion.
Very cool. I watched the brief video you put up on your Facebook page about, you know, taking us into the room where you guys were recording and stuff, showing off all that vintage equipment. I understand you use some analog stuff as well to give it that great feel.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah, I mean, it's important to us to use real recording studios and make this record as live as possible so you capture the band. I mean, most people today, they make records on computers.
Yeah.
And you play with a drum machine and whatever. That to me is not a record. I mean, when you listen to our music, you're on stage with us. You know what I mean? The band's playing, you feel that energy. You know, when you do records, you know, in someone's bedroom, and I use that as a jokingly frame, but, you know, people are doing everything on their, you know, their computer systems. Where's the human? I mean, I might as well just be listening to a computer generating music for me.
Right.
So that's what we wanted to be the opposite of. We wanted to make sure that we sound like a live band. That's not to say that we don't go in and fix things where we may say, we've got the live performance, but now let's do the drums over again.
Yeah.
Or whatever, so we can capture a certain power and sound. But the live basis is the foundation of all these songs. So when the listener hears it, they're on stage with us. And you can feel that. And I think we were able to capture that pretty well in this record.
So what I took then, with the room you showed us in the video, when you guys are doing a song, the three of you are in there playing together in the same room
a lot of times
at the same time?
Well, no, a lot of times we isolate stuff.
Okay.
So I'll give you an example, and I'm just going to be, I don't want to get too technical, but I'll kind of explain normally.
Sure.
If we track together in a studio, if we are in the same room, a lot of times they have these things called gobos or gazebos. Gobos. And basically they're barriers. They lots of, padding, sound kind of control, right? Materials.
Right.
And they're, they come in on rollers, and you can basically roll them in between the drums and the guitar amps and the bass amps and all of that, so you don't get too much bleed in the mic.
Okay, yeah.
I play extremely loud, right? So, you don't want, in the drum mics, you try not to get the guitar feeding in through the mic.
Right.
Same thing, the bass. That way, when you're mixing the record, when you turn up the snare drum, all of a sudden the guitar doesn't get a lot louder. Although I would prefer it does.
Right.
I like the guitar loud, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But, so that's really important.
Yeah. Very cool. How was it working with Mike Palatinate? He engineered this record. He's worked with a kabillion people. You almost can name anybody, and he's worked with them. How did that go? Okay, Chris, we were talking briefly about working with Mike Palatinate, the gentleman who engineered this album. Had you worked with him previously?
No, I didn't. I knew, obviously, of Mike's work with bands like Van Halen and AC/DC and Aerosmith and all of that stuff, but no, I hadn't personally worked with him.
Yeah. How was it working with him?
Great. I mean, he's fantastic. I mean, he loved the band. He was really into our music. And I think, when you work with people, that's half the battle.
Yeah.
And he was really capturing, like, the drums and all of that stuff. That was really his focus. So he was really working more in the capacity of an engineer versus producer. But, again, his input was highly valued, and I think he really helped capture a lot of great performance on our record.
Very cool. I want to get into some of the songs on the album, Chris, because, like I say, I got to listen to an advanced copy of this, and right off, first tune, Hypocrisy, monster riff opening up. I mean, that just comes out and grabs you right by the throat, Was that one you'd had for a while, or a new riff, or a new song, or how'd that one come about?
No, I actually remember that vividly, how that came out. I was actually working on a song called Wonderworld, what became Wonderworld.
Yep.
And I was drop detuning, and I was playing. Wonderworld's a really cool kind of almost progressive feel to it, a lot of triplets. And I was playing that, and I don't know what happened. My hand slipped or something, and all of a sudden I stumbled on to that riff, and I went, whoa, what's that? And I swear, I know people are going to sound like this sounds crazy, or I'm trying to make up some really cool story, but I swear a lot of these songs, when they happen, the riffs come through me, I swear it feels like there's a higher power coming through me, channeling itself. I don't know why this happens to me, but all of a sudden these riffs, my body, my hands, they just start playing. I'm like, whoa, where am I going? Why is this happening? And it just starts taking a lifeline of its own. And that's really how that first riff came out on Hypocrisy.
Wow.
It was sliding out of something on Wonderworld on the main progression, the triplet thing, and it fell into it. And my ear went, whoa, what's that? And it felt good. I was like, oh, I got to stop. And I literally stopped the song Wonderworld that I was working on and immediately, I grabbed something, some sort of recorder or whatever, so I could at least record the idea so I wouldn't forget it.
Yeah.
And it began from there.
Very, very cool. The next tune that jumped out was Gates of Hell. The solo on that song is incredible. It's like a 3 different part deal to my ear, Can you tell me a little bit about that one?
Well, Gates of Hell, that almost reminds me of kind of like it's definitely kind of got that thrash metal element, that thrash metal feel to it.
Yeah.
Really a powerful song. I love the vocal. I think that's one of Rob's, I love everything Rob did on this record, but that's one that really, for me personally, stands out. Just a great melody, even though it's really haunting and heavy. And I played all of that. That actually song, 80% of this record was done on my blood-splattered Charvel.
Right.
But that one I actually did all on my 58 Les Paul. And it's just something about it. It has a feel to it, an energy. And, yeah, the solo is a lot of fun to play. It's definitely pretty technical. Not really, it's not rocket science. Some of the solos, like the solo I did in Symptom of the Universe, as a guitar player, that's brutal. That's some big stretches, really hard to play.
Yeah.
The one in Gates of Hell is still fun. It's a lot of fast alternate picking, but it's got a lot of interesting way we're playing it. A lot of little diminished little nuances along with pentatonic and, so it's a pretty nifty piece. Lots of fun as a guitar player.
Yeah, definitely. Next tune I really, really liked this one was Manowar. To me, it had it was, listening with my ear, kind of a Metallica-like groove in the intro, almost reminiscent of sort of like For Whom the Bell Tolls. Solo, again, is blazing, and I love the lyrics. Love the lyrics in that one.
You have a great sense, of at least your ear is not lying to you. When we first did that, that's exactly what I said. I wanted to do a mid-tempo song because we have so much speedy metal stuff on this record.
Yes.
We wanted to kind of give the listener a break, but we also want to make sure it's a song we enjoy playing. And I was fooling around with that, and it did remind me very much of that kind of To Whom the Bell Toll kind of feel, right? That dun-da-da-da-dun.
Yes.
So it definitely, and it's intentional, it does have that kind of feel. At the same time, it reminds me of something Metallica would have done on their Black record.
Yes.
It has that feel to it, almost a Times Sandman,
Mm-hmm.
So great ears. I mean, I hear that too. Solo's a blast. Solo's ripping. It's one of my fun. I love that solo.
Yeah.
It's got a lot of it's definitely a lot of legato, but also a lot of alternate picking blended together. And it's not only has it got the the shredding and the technicalities of all of it, but it's also very musical. So it's very easy to listen to. Where you listen and you go, oh, that's really cool. I think my wife was saying something like that. So. Either way, that's a blast to play. And yeah, lyrically, that's a badass song.
Where did Rob come up with lyrics for that?
War. Well, really, the song is about, think about it. It's almost like war.
Yeah.
It almost feels almost Civil War-ish to me,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like,
yeah.
Fight, support your brother,
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like, make sure you're there for him. You got his back. And that's obviously in war. You got to make sure you have each other's back, right?
Yeah, definitely.
And that's kind of got that whole kind of theme to it. And so, and to be honest, because I'm the guitar player, I don't tell Rob what to write lyrically. Those are questions really only Rob can answer in all sincerity. Where are you? What were you thinking when you did this?
Yeah, very cool. Do you think I'm mad? About 7 seconds in, you really grabbed me because I heard a very similar sound to the intro of "And the Cradle Will Rock" by Van Halen. That.
Yes, love that flanger.
Yeah, and somebody told me how they did that, and I couldn't remember how it was, so I'm going to ask you, how'd you get that sound?
Well, that's a little different. So Van Halen actually used a Wurlitzer piano, electric piano, Wurlitzer, which gets run directly. The output of the piano goes into the input of an MXR flanger.
Okay.
And there it goes into Edward's Marshall. At least that's the way Edward basically said it was done.
Yeah.
So with mine, it's basically guitar directly into the flanger.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
And then flanger through the Marshalls and all the amps. And so, it takes a while to get that right. It's not the easiest thing to dial up. Once you get it, it's magical. It's like, oh, that's so cool.
Yeah. Yeah. Great tune for Halloween. I've listened to it.
I think so, yeah. That song is all about Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde.
Yeah.
It's a fun song. It's a lot of fun to play.
Definitely.
It reminds me, it's funny, it's got this really cool riff, you're playing kind of off of A. I think we're tuned a whole step down, but you're really playing with like a lot of the open A pedal tones, you're doing various scales.
Yeah.
But when you go into the verse almost reminds me of Megadeth's, oh God, what's that? I forget which, off of Hangar 18, whatever their main one was.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of reminds me of that, know, so it's a fun song.
Yeah. Who does the laugh at the end?
It's all Rob.
It's all Rob.
When he does the demonic devil,
yeah,
it's all Rob. That's fun.
Very cool. Got two more to ask you about here. Kill the Beast was just epic. I loved the mid, I call it a breakdown section where you kind of bring everything down a little bit and sort of stretch it out and give everybody a chance to breathe. But going into that section, there's like this, what I coined a machine gun riff going into that section that I thought was awesomely cool.
Yeah. Kill the Beast is a fun one. I don't know if you hear it, but if you listen very carefully, actually listen to that and then go play Michael Jackson's Thriller.
Okay.
And you'll start to go, well, that's interesting. There are times, I know this is going to sound insane to the metal community, be like, what? Sacrilege. There's almost, you can kind of hear when we break down the verses. The first thing I think of is Vincent Price going to start talking?
Yeah.
I start hearing Thriller all over it. But yeah, it's one of those songs where it was just a fun journey. Let's just see where this takes us musically.
Yeah.
It wasn't like we sat down and said, hey, we have to write this more of this thematic song. let's just kind of let the music do the talking, but also lead us. You know, we're like the horse, lead us to the water. And it was one of those songs where it just kind of, it pulled us in different directions, and any direction that it pulled us, we just went.
Cool.
So musically speaking, that's why I think the song is so, it's pretty interesting. It's very theatrical.
Yeah, very cool. And then I gave you my last song test. I always, when I listen to an album, I usually listen to it in sequence, and when I get to the last song, the thought that's going through my head is, are they trying as hard on the last song as they are on the first song?
Or is it a filler?
Right, or is it a filler? You passed the test. Great tune, had a great message to it, and I loved it seemed to be a little more vocal harmony on this one. Made me kind of think of Styx a tiny bit on the vocal, on the chorus and stuff.
Oh yeah.
You know, a little bit. Can you tell me a little bit about Shine On?
Yeah, I mean, Shine On now, it's got the basic foundation is very heavy. It's detuned, right? I think we're tuned down a whole step, and then it's drop detuning, right?
Yeah.
So you're really playing in C. So it's got that real big, thick, fat sound. The guitar solo is insane as a guitar player. It's very difficult to play. But vocally, you hit the nail on the head. You know, it's interesting because, you know, in the 90s when we got lucky to get a lot of success in Japan. I mean, it's pretty insane.
Yeah.
We tried to get management, and we were talking to managers, and I'll never forget, I think it was Rick Sales who managed Slayer, and another guy, and so one of them, they said something about, man, I really love your music, but the vocals, man, you guys sound like Boston or Styx. And I went, oh, hey, man, thanks. And they're like, no, that's not a compliment. And I, what do you mean? And I got what they meant eventually. It was like, you know, they were calling us like pussies. We're like, dude, come on.
Yeah.
You know, listen to this stuff. And they're playing us stuff like Slayer. And I'm going, but the dude can't sing. Are you serious?
Yeah.
Now, I don't mean anything negative. I like Slayer. I really do. And it fits for what they do. But that, to me, is not singing.
Right.
You know? So we, on certain songs, we're going to embrace that. I mean, when you hear the 9 tracks of harmonies, we really get that from Queen. From Freddie, you know, Freddie, Brian May, and all that stuff.
Sure.
So you hear a lot of that, which is really Styx, too, right? You get that, and Boston. I mean, God, what a great voice, one of the greatest vocalists ever.
Yeah.
Right? I don't care what anybody says, just a beautiful, talented legend.
Absolutely.
So, you know, you hear that, and we embrace that on that record.
Yeah.
So that's the difference. I mean, you're going to hear a lot of big, you know, 1-3-5 harmonies, a lot of orchestration, a lot of counterpoint vocally.
Yeah, very cool.
So, yeah, that's kind of it. It has all those elements in there.
Excellent. I want to take you back a little bit. I like to fact check some of this stuff. You know, I mean, I know it's true because I read it all on the internet, but, you know, I like to fact check as well. And this is where we sort of share a bit of a kinship. You were born and raised in Ledyard, Connecticut.
Correct. Well, technically I was born in New London, Connecticut. That's where I was born. But, yeah, I was raised in an area called Ledyard, Connecticut once. This is a long story, not to get the violins out, because everybody's going to go, oh, I'm so sorry, and believe me, what I'm about to say you may have already heard, and it's a long time ago, so it doesn't affect me.
Sure.
But so when I was 9 years old, I lost my parents.
Right.
Right, they died. And so my grandparents adopted me. So I was born, actually, as Christopher Hughes, and I was born in New London, Connecticut, at least at New London Hospital, right? That's where I was born. When my parents, now this gets even more deep in the stupid story, right? My biological father and my mother divorced when I was 1, right? So I'm born Christopher Hughes. Then at 1, my mother remarries to a guy named Jim O'Malley, and so I get adopted and become Chris O'Malley or whatever, Chris Hughes O'Malley. And so at that point, I lived in an area called Coventry, Connecticut. I don't know anything about it, but that's where I actually lived.
Okay.
And then when my parents passed away, then my grandparents adopted me, and that's where I moved to Ledyard, Connecticut, and I must have been 9 years old, I guess, somewhere around there. So from 9 on, at least until I was about 19, I lived in Ledyard, Connecticut. Went to school there, graduated high school there. That was it. So that's kind of my Connecticut story.
Cool. I mean, not. Let me rephrase that. Sorry to hear about the tragedy. Cool.
I knew you were going to go there, yeah? Okay.
Cool that you grew up in Connecticut. My apologies. Oh, my God, that was horrid. Because my grandparents, I had an aunt that lived in Ledyard for about in the mid to late 80s. My grandparents lived in, like, Gales Ferry, Mystic,
Stonington. That's part of Ledyard, yeah.
I actually lived in New London for a little while back in the late 60s. We moved to Vermont in 1970.
Oh, my gosh.
So I lived in New London.
So then, yeah.
So when I read that, I'm like, God, I mean, I remember, I'll throw out some names at you. I remember buying Kiss Hotter Than Hell at Two Guys in the New London Mall. Remember the Two Guys store?
Oh my gosh. If that's the mall where they used to have the posters of like Led Zeppelin
yes.
and Kiss,
yes.
the 4 or 5 foot posters,
yeah.
I used to go in there and my grandmother would go shopping or whatever, and I would run into that store and I would just stare at the posters. I think it was Kiss of the live record or around 1975 record, and I was a little kid, and they had posters, I'll never forget, of Robert Plant and Led Zeppelin from I think it was around The Song Remains the Same time, and I would just stare at it. I don't know why. I would sit there for an hour just looking up, staring, mesmerized.
But
it had that, I guess maybe because I needed something in life, and it mesmerized.
Yeah.
That's crazy that you said that.
I spent a lot of time down there. I mean, my grandmother, we used to buy a season pass to the Mystic Aquarium when they were like, $30 a year,
Wow, I remember that place too. Gosh, wow.
All that stuff. We used to go down to the Point in Stonington, all that good stuff. So I was like, wow, I gotta ask you about this.
Yeah, that Stonington, I remember I was in one of my first bands I was in, a bar band we used to play. The drummer lived, I believe, in an area called North Stonington, and that's where we used to rehearse. Wow. And it was great. I love that.
Yeah.
I mean, Connecticut was such an awesome place. It really was great.
Yeah.
I have such fond memories of a lot of that.
Yeah, I read you started playing soon after you lost your parents. Your grandmother bought you your first guitar, right?
That's correct, yeah.
And you started playing, moved on up to the keg parties in high schools. You were playing in clubs before you were 18. And then you were your band opened for QT Hush, which was an AC/DC tribute band, but eventually you joined them for like a year?
Yeah, so I was in a band where we were coming out of high school. Actually, no, gosh, I was probably, when I first started playing bars, I was 15 years old, so they would sneak me in.
Yeah.
And we were doing stuff like at that time, we were probably doing like, covers of Ozzy, Deep Purple, early Van Halen, Queen, stuff like that, and throwing a couple of originals in there. And we got really popular as this, like, these kids, right, these teenagers.
Yeah.
And there was a band doing an AC/DC tribute, which is really silly, but they were massive. I mean, these guys were playing in front of 2,000-3,000 people a night as a tribute band.
Yeah.
Like, silly, right? And so we opened for them. And at this time, I was probably like 16 or 17, and their guitar player was doing Angus Quit. And they said, hey, we really need someone. Would you be interested in doing this? And at first I'm like, well, I don't want to be a tribute band. That's lame. But then I looked at how many people were coming to see them night after night, and I thought just the experience of getting up in front of playing people, so I joined. And, of course, I would change all the guitar solos and play like really fast, like Gary Moore kind of stuff,
Yeah.
It was crazy, but it was such a great experience. I mean, we were playing massive venues, and it really taught me how to be disciplined to play really well live, because live is a different animal.
Yeah.
It's one thing to sit in a chair and practice 8 hours a day. It's another thing to get up in front of a couple thousand people staring at you.
Definitely.
Definitely.
Now, so was it in QT Hush that led you to Rob? Is that where you met Rob?
Soon after, yeah. So QT Hush, we kind of end after a few years, right? And the singer of QT Hush, we decided let's do an original band. So we started doing that. Nothing evolved,
Yeah.
So I left, and I actually went to L.A. for a little while. And it was a great experience. A buddy of mine and myself, we went out to L.A., and we were kind of disappointed because we had heard all these magical stories about this is where Van Halen come from, and all the Motley Crues. And we went to Gazzari's, ran there, and went, oh, my God, this is a dump, and the band was horrible.
Yeah.
I shouldn't say that, but, it was just not what we thought.
Yeah.
So, disappointment,
Yeah.
So, anyways, somehow I ended up going back to Connecticut. I think it was around, I don't remember, it was 1985, and I was in a club one night, and I was just watching this band, and it was Greg Allman was headlining, and a band called the Robert Allen Rock Band was opening up, and the band was really good. I mean, it's like, we were all like, shit, who's this band?
Yeah.
And afterwards they were done, and Greg Allman came on, and I was, I knew the guy, so I basically was backstage or something. And Rob and I, our paths crossed, and I said, hey, man, I got to tell you, I really like your voice. And they were getting ready. I guess they were having an issue with their guitar player. And I don't know what happened. We started talking. Before we knew it, the next weekend we were rehearsing together.
Wow.
Right? Just, hey, let's see if there's something here, right?
Yeah.
And there was. And so that's how we ended up forming a bar band together called Vice. We were doing a lot of original songs, but we were also doing covers of Queen and AC/DC and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Van Halen, Ozzy, etc. Whatever you had to do to get into clubs and play, you had to play covers. So we did all of that stuff.
Right.
Kind of like Van Halen did, I guess, when they were doing their dues. So we did the same thing. And there was something there, but I had such a drive to make it. I was like, guys, we got to do original music. You can't do this. And they were kind of, at that point, they were complacent. They had a pretty good gig. They were playing 5 nights a week, making decent money.
Yeah.
I was like, we got to go to L.A. And I was a little bit of an unruly child. So something happens. We disbanded. I think they actually fired me because I was so obnoxious. I was just like, I wanted to shred on the guitar all the time. I was obnoxiously loud on stage. They were more conservative,
Yeah.
So anyways, so I went to L.A. and soon after Rob's thing, I don't know what happened. I know what he got called by Rudy Sarzo and Tommy Aldridge.
Yeah, with Mars. Tony
and there was there had been many members in it, but they needed a singer, and Rob came to LA and got the gig, and they did a record. Unfortunately, it didn't really go anywhere.
Yeah.
So having said that, I was writing some really cool music, of which would become the first Impellitteri record. We call it the Impellitteri Black EP.
Right.
And so Rob was kind of, it was coming to an end. Rudy had already told him. I mean, I was there. Rudy came over to the place and said, look, he's joining Whitesnake and Tommy.
Yeah.
And so Rob was devastated. But I said, look, I've got all this music. We're getting ready to go into the studio. We have such a great history. Let's see if we can make something work. And so we start writing. The first song we write is Lost in the Rain. Then we do Burning. And this stuff, for the hardcore Impellitteri fans, this was a really cool record. And it was really cemented who we were. It was kind of like Iron Maiden and Judas Priest on steroids, but with like Vivaldi crazy guitar soloing and, screaming vocals, just, to the nth degree.
Yeah.
So we do it, and all of a sudden labels start getting interested in this. Like, what is this? This is really cool. And to be honest, I mean, the record is almost a live record. We didn't have any money for studio, no big production. I'm just put up the mics and play.
Yeah.
And that's one thing I still, when I listen back, I love it. I realize it's pretty much a live record, so don't expect to hear like massive bass drums and all that stuff. It's almost like, you got an iPhone up and you're listening to a live band play, and I love that about it because there's no cheating.
Yeah.
What you hear is what you get.
Right.
So, anyways, the record, we got so much attention, so we got signed by Sony and Relativity. Places like England, Kerrang! Magazine at that time was the biggest metal magazine, outside of like Circus and something else. And Kerrang! Reviewed it, and, it was really hard to get their perfect score, which is 5 stars. We got 5 stars. They were the one who actually started this ridiculous fastest guitar player in the world stuff. They actually called me the fastest guitar player in the world, something, Steve I Only Wishes, those kind of guys.
Yeah.
Stupid stuff. But anyways, it began to build a big following. And then, to my devastation, we get ready to really start doing live stuff. I think we had done some live stuff. And Rob decides to quit. The band has never been a Christian band. I don't know why we get labeled that, but we are not.
Yeah.
And Rob was. And Rob wanted to do something more Christian-based. So there was a band that were working with a guy who had produced all the Scorpion stuff in Germany. And they invited Rob, and he decided to go pursue that. And here I am with a record deal. I have another record to deliver under contract. And a key component left the band. I was like, oh, my God, what do I do?
Yeah.
So that's the evolution. From there, that's where Graham Bonnet comes in, and that's where we kind of deviate for a period of time into something completely different.
Right. But it was Graham that helped to break you, like, in Japan and stuff. Didn't I read that correctly? He sort of
absolutely. Absolutely. So, listen, I think Graham, on Stand in Line, I mean, he's amazing. He's a monster on that record, and I love Stand in Line, the song. As a matter of fact, there are about 3 songs on that record I personally love, and I have a love-hate relationship with that record, as many people do.
Yeah.
There are things that I love about it. Stand in Line has stood the test of time. We play that live, and people just go nuts.
Right.
It's crazy, and I listen back, and I go, yeah, I'm really happy I was part of that. I participated. But Stand in Line is a very different record. Here, Graham was 18 years older than me. Pat Torpy, who I loved, God rest his soul, he was much older. Everybody in the band, and here I am, I felt like a little kid with all my seniors, and emotionally it was really hard for me to relate to everybody. And they probably looked down on me too, as I was a kid for the most part,
Yeah.
So we're doing that record, and it was hard too because Graham, he was this legendary rock vocalist. I mean, Rainbow replaced Dio with Graham.
Yeah.
That should say enough.
Right.
So he's this, at that time, he's this legendary monster, right? And so I don't know what happened. I mean, he had called me years earlier with a couple guys and see if I wanted to replace Yngwie in his band Alcatraz.
Right.
And again, I was much too young. I was still mastering my guitar soloing, becoming, I was beginning to evolve into what I'd become, right? Whatever this little devil or monster I'd become.
Yeah.
So anyway, Steve Vai got the gig, which I think would have been the right thing, because these guys, again, were way too old for me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but Graham and I had always we became friends, and he seemed to really love my guitar playing or whatever.
Yeah.
So we were friends, and I always loved the singing, but again, in a different format. I was this 15-year-old, at least emotionally, a 15-year-old metal kid, that wanted to play more like Maiden and Priest, but do all the shredding stuff.
Yeah.
And Graham was more blues-based, and, so Rob quits, Alcatraz ends. It kind of, falls apart,
Right.
did its cycle. And one day we were talking. I said, "Hey, look, man, I'm under contract. I gotta get a singer. I don't know what I'm gonna do. Would you be interested?" He was like, "Absolutely." He's in.
Yeah.
So I think one of the first songs I wrote was "Stand in Line," and I gave the demo to him and I said, "We'll see what you can do with this." And within a day, what you hear is what he brought. And I was like, "This is really good." Now, having said that, I knew we had at least one song which was going to be pretty strong, but the rest of it was really hard. It was really hard because I couldn't write the way I wrote with Rob. I couldn't be like the hardcore aggressive metal guy with Graham, at least at that time.
Right.
I didn't think so. So I don't know if it was a label guy or someone suggested, "Well, why don't you do music more catering towards Graham versus what you did with the Black EP?"
Right.
Well, I'm like, okay, but now you're taking me out of my element and my passion, what I like to do, right?
Yeah.
So I went for it, and it really, Stand in Line was in many ways a project. It was really 5 guys kind of trying to figure out what to do and put things together. Pat Torpy was so helpful with the arrangements.
Yeah.
He really helped so much on that record. Because a lot of times we're like, well, where's the bridge? Where's the pre? Where do we take Graham? And he was really instrumental on that stuff.
Very cool. How did you and Rob come back together to start playing and recording?
Sure. So what happened is, so Stand in Line went through its course. It did really well. We blew up in Japan, but Japan already had begun with Rob, with the Black EP,
right?
At least in the metal community. And so, but Stand in Line, because of Graham, he was a legend. I mean, a legend in Japan.
Yeah.
Our first show, we played the Tokyo Dome. That's 65,000 people,
Yeah.
So when I say legend, it was massive. And it's because, obviously, being the lead singer of Rainbow, people don't realize, we know now we've heard of Download Festival, but it used to be called Castle Donington, and Graham headlined. I think they were the first headliner, and they did like 300,000 people. So just for people who don't know the history, that's how big he was.
Yeah.
So Japan, I got to be honest, I think there was a little bit of an element of we got a gift, success by association, because in Japan, think about who Graham had played with previously before he joins Impellitteri. He plays with Richie Blackmore in Rainbow, who at that time were, they sold tens of millions of records. Right. And then he quits that or whatever, and then he goes into the Michael Schenker group, who in Europe, Michael obviously being from UFO and a stint with Scorpions and his solo stuff, he's a pretty legendary guy over there.
Yeah.
So you got him doing that. And then he quits that and he forms his own band, and who's he bring on? And he discovers, or he brings in Yngwie, right? And Yngwie becomes this monster guitar player. Then Yngwie kind of goes out and whatever, and then they bring in Steve Vai, right? And then after that, Alcatraz falls off, and Graham joins my band.
Yeah.
So now I'm the next guitar player in line. So, it's like there was a gift there. I know I almost feel like I got a credit,
Yeah, the stars definitely
they're throwing me in line with, exactly. I'm now considered one of those guys with Blackmore, Schenker, Yngwie, Vai, and all of that.
Yeah.
So anyway, I think that's one of the things that pushed us over. So we did that for about 3 years. But Graham at that time, look, to be honest, there were alcohol issues, big problems with that. And he was having marital issues. So basically, it drove its course. We tried to get a new deal. We had signed with a big management company. We tried to get a new deal with some big labels. And at this point, that type of music was starting to die out, right? At this point, I think the grunge thing's starting to come in. So I had actually broken it off for a little while. And for about 4 months, I actually started a project with a singer named Glenn Hughes.
Okay.
So we started demoing. Glenn was from Deep Purple and Black Sabbath and different bands, right?
Phenomenal.
So, we started doing some stuff, but, as Glenn, if he's honest, he'd try to tell you the truth. He was having some issues, too, drug issues, which probably is why he got exited or kind of asked to go out of the Sabbath camp at that time.
Yeah.
So I did that for a while, and it just never went anywhere. And so one day I said, you know what? No, I'm going to stick to doing what I started with Rob, that real aggressive metal. That's who I am. And I got to find myself. So I found myself, and I got all of that back, the playing, everything. And, you know, we signed the JVC Victor. Most of our diehard fans, the records where we really start to, I think, get back to who we really should have been. We do an EP called Victim of the System.
Yeah.
It basically has a lot of Queen influence, but a lot of speed metal and crazy soloing and orchestration, all that. And the following record, we do a record called Answer to the Master, and it just explodes in Japan. I think we sell 100,000 records in the first day.
Wow.
Of its release. I mean, just big. We're on the cover of guitar magazines. I think, you know, soon after we're working with Michael Wagner at that time, who was a legendary producer, had done, you know, Metallica, you know, Ozzy. He had just finished Ozzy, and then he did us right after Ozzy's No More Tears record. And I think I won Best Guitar Player, Best Rock Guitarist in Burn magazine, which is really a legendary magazine over there. And things just from there, we just didn't look back. We took it, and Rob was back, and I think it was our synergy. You know, our hardcore fans, that's what they wanted. And we were writing and playing better than ever because we were kind of together again.
Right.
So that's kind of how Rob evolved back. And then a few years, maybe, I don't know, maybe 10 years later, we would deviate for a short period of time again. Right. And this is where, interesting, where I talked about the difficulties of working with Graham on Stand in Line.
Yeah.
Well, Rob, after we do Crunch, which I love that record, we basically decide, all right, let's take a break. So Rob goes and does a solo record, and at this point, obviously, if I do a solo record, what am I going to call it?
Right.
You know where I'm going with that, right?
Yeah.
So Poetic Justice. I said, you know what? I'm going to try this one more time. I've always wanted to have revenge on the people that didn't like it, or including myself, stuff on Stand Line that I didn't like, or the critics. Except this time, I'm going to write Impellitteri music the way I want. Impellitteri. This is going to be Impellitteri written, driven. And then I'm going to give it to Graham and have him do his vocals his way over my style of music. And so we do a record called System X. And it was really, I look back on that, and I say that's what Stand in Line should have been. And we only released it in Japan and Europe. And it was really, I mean, people love that record over there. You know, and it has songs like Rock and Roll Hero on it, The End of the World. And Graham is incredible on it. But now I'm playing the way I play on these records, you know, all the shredding and the crazy riffs, and I like it a lot. You know, it's a fun record.
Very cool. I want to go back.
But anyways, after that,
what's that?
Go ahead. I was going to say after that, so we.
I wanted to go back to the Black EP for a moment. You're recording this at Baby O Studios, and Gene Simmons would pop in every once in a while.
Yeah, I remember that. I don't know if he'll remember that, but yeah, there's a place called Baby O Studios, and there was a guy named Mikey Davis who we had met. He was kind of like a local engineer that a lot of the bigger bands used. And Mikey was doing our record, but at the same time, he was also doing demos for the new Kiss record with Gene. And so Baby O, it had two rooms. There was A studio and B studio, and they were connected. The lounge, you share the lounge. So, you know, I would come out, and there's Gene. And I will never forget, because I believe Gene at that time was doing that movie with Tom Selleck. So he had cut his hair. It was awkward. That sounds right. Something like that. But yeah, and I never forget, we talked one night, and I'm thinking as a little kid, now, obviously, as a guitar player, I'm listening to more like Dimiola and Paco de Lucia and Van Halen and Randy Rhoads. But Kiss was my first concert. You know, Kiss Destroyer. And I was always like, I loved it. I thought it was awesome. So, Gene, we're talking. I'll never forget this. This made an impression as a little kid, right? I'm in the studio recording the Impellitteri Black EP, and we're talking. I don't know how it came about, but I had my guitar on, like, strap. I probably walked out in the lounge or something. And he asked me something. Must have been, hey, well, do you know Cream? And he's like, da-na-na-na, bum, 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 out. I'm like, oh, yeah, okay, for whatever. He goes, no. And he comes up behind me and plays my guitar over my shoulders, right?
Oh, nice.
So I'm laughing, thinking, yeah, this is, as a little kid, right? I'm thinking, oh, my 13-year-old's like going, this is cool. You know? But yeah, I do remember that. I don't know if he'd remember that, but yeah, I remember that very vivid.
Very, very cool. Getting back to today with the Nature of the Beast album, you've done one video for Run for Your Life. Planning on doing any more videos for any of the songs on the album?
We've already done them. Absolutely. We've done them. We're editing right now. So we did. So Run for Your Life, it's so much fun. Not rocket science. It's just a fun. It's almost a celebration of going back to like Maiden in their classic years, or Priest in the classic years, or Ozzy at his best. It's really That's what it reminds me of, except with today's production. You know what I mean? For me, I love it. It's so much fun to play. So that's the first video, obviously, which people are now seeing.
Right.
And then we decided, and again, this is again where we're taking risk. We did 2 covers, kind of what, in a manner of like what Van Halen again did, like the Kinks.
Sure.
We did Symptom of the Universe, and we did Phantom of the Opera,
Yes.
and we did music videos for them as well.
Oh, excellent.
So, you know, yeah, so it's going to be interesting. I hope people love this. I'm a little bit nervous, especially with Sabbath. You never know. There could be sacrilege there.
Yeah, you get those
already
hardcore
know.
Sabbath fans, you know. Definitely.
Yeah. But right now, man, people, at least most of the people I've talked to, everybody, it's weird. They keep going to Symptoms of the Universe. They seem to really dig it. Now, I'm not saying everybody, I mean, I respect everybody's opinion. Some people may hate it, but it's definitely kind of, I feel like what we did to it is kind of what Van Halen did to the Kinks songs, you know?
Yeah.
And so it's a lot of fun, and it's pretty incredible as far as the shredding and the screaming and all that stuff.
Yeah. Very, very cool. Chris, I always like to end my interviews with what I call my fun questions. Hopefully these are questions I'm hoping you've never even been asked before. Sound good?
Absolutely. I'll try my best to answer them.
Given your choice of household chores, would you rather do the dishes or the laundry?
The laundry, because that way I can't cut my hand with a knife.
Okay. Good thinking. Good thinking. What is your current cell phone ringtone?
I think it is just set on whatever Apple standard
The default
ringtone
one?
is. I don't even have a clue what it is. Yeah.
All right.
I think it's the default, literally.
Late at night and you're hungry, what do you grab for a midnight snack?
Oh, that's a good one. It's either going to be pizza, chocolate, or chips.
Okay. Very cool.
Or a banana, depending if I'm in a health kick.
First car you bought with your own money?
Corvette.
Corvette, nice. Very nice. Favorite smell?
Women's perfume, but a specific smell, and I don't know the brand, but
Okay.
yeah, that's it. And if not that, all sincerity, like anybody, definitely love the smell of springtime.
Okay. If you could blink and appear anywhere in the world, where would you choose?
Paris.
Paris, nice. Last one, and this is the one we have the most fun with. If they were to make a movie of your life, what actor would you have play you in the movie? And it's your life, your movie, you can pick anybody you want.
Okay. That's a good one. And now you get that's hard. I don't know who comes to mind at first. It's really hard. I mean, who would you do? Because immediately I get so technical. I'm thinking, all right, well, who looks like me?
Yeah. Right.
Is there a musician that plays? I mean, dude, that is so hard. I don't know. I don't. That's when I even the question is so complicated for me to process.
All right.
Isn't that's crazy? I wish you could sit there and say right off the top of my head.
Yeah, just pick a name.
I know I'm struggling. I don't know. I can't think of anybody that I feel like that's an actor that reminds me of me. Dude, I'm gonna fail miserably on that one. I don't have anybody.
Every once in a while, it does trip somebody up. So you're not the first to be tripped up by it. But very cool to talk with you, Chris. Again, Nature of the Beast. We've been talking with Chris Impellitteri here, and Let's Discuss with Lance Hall. His new album, Nature of the Beast, coming out October 12th here in the States on Frontiers Records. It is a beast of an album, and I'll tell you, it blows me away that you grew up down there around Ledger. I can't help but think, was I ever in, a music store down there looking at albums, and you were standing next to me maybe looking at albums, That blows me away.
Well, yeah, which is quite possible, man. I mean, it's like I have nothing but fond memories of Connecticut.
Yeah.
My first concert was actually at the Providence Civic Center.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember going to see plenty of bands. It's funny. I won't deviate really quickly, but on the Venom record, the last show we did, and you can go on YouTube and see this. We actually headlined the Busan Rock Festival in South Korea, and we did about 90,000 people. My bass player James couldn't play with us. He had some legal issue or whatever. So my friend Rudy Sarzo, who used to play bass for Ozzy Osbourne and Whitesnake and all those bands, he played. He basically learned all the music, spent a week rehearsing, and then going over and playing with us. And I think about that. And Rudy and I used to be in a band in Japan, a very big thing called Animetal USA with Scott from Judas Priest. And, we were playing massive arenas. And I will never forget the first time him and I were playing a big arena, and I'm looking over to the right side of the stage, and I see Rudy standing there thinking about, dude, I saw you with Randy Rhoads play at the Hartford Civic Center in Connecticut. Yeah. And then, again, I think I saw you afterwards in the New Haven Coliseum in Connecticut. And now we're in a band together, and I remember thinking, this is hilarious. Very surreal. But those are my memories of Connecticut.
Oh, definitely. I mean, I went to my first concert, it was November of '82 in the Harvard Civic Center with Survivor and REO Speedwagon. And then we got going.
Kevin's my neighbor now.
What's that?
Kevin Cronin's literally like, he lives at, like, I live in an area, it's a very nice area, guard gated community and all that stuff. My house, there's like Nikki Sixx up the street. Will Smith used to be my neighbor. Wow. Kevin Cronin lives there. A lot of musician guys there. And it's funny because I did see REO Speedwagon on the Infidelity tour. So I don't remember who the opening act was. Actually, I thought it was 38 Special, to be honest, but I did see them in Connecticut. So it is very possible you were at the same show.
Well, no, I was at the following tour. We were on the Good Trouble tour with Survivor. It was the one after Infidelity. Okay. But yeah, and then we discovered the New Haven Coliseum, and you know, Ronnie James Dio, AC/DC, Motley Crue. I saw Rudy Sarzo and Whitesnake down there with Great White opening up. That was January of '88. You know, so.
Is the New Haven Coliseum still around?
Sadly, no. They took it down a number of years ago. They
did?
Yeah, they took it down.
Okay, so where did everybody go in the show? As far as shows in Connecticut now, is the Hartford Civic Center still existing, or is it now an amphitheater?
It's still there, but a lot of people go now to the XL Center, which is located in Hartford. It's an outdoor amphitheater, or everybody's going down to Mohegan Sun. That's the real big one.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because that's saying in the winter you're not playing amphitheaters. So if people are coming through like in February and March and also got some gloves and a lot of heaters.
Yeah, no, they're yeah, definitely in Connecticut. Now everybody goes to Mohegan. I heard hang on, let me I heard Jimmy Koplik talking one time on, I'll throw out another station to you, WHCN one day, which is no longer in existence down there in Connecticut. Talking about how everybody loves to go to the casinos because they can put the acts up, they get house money, they get, you know, the penthouse suite, they play the arena, you know, it's just a great thing.
Is he the one booking that place?
He's still booking down there, yeah.
Dude, you know what's crazy about that? So I had a manager named John Scher, a really big concert promoter. He was my manager for like 8 years, and he eventually bought up a bunch of like promoters, and Jimmy Koplik was one of them. So we had lunch one day. And it's funny because, you know, they were supposed to really get us on big tours, being that they were gigantic promoters, and they were dick. But I remember meeting Jimmy, and he was trying to get me, there was some singer, he was trying to get me to audition for my band. Yeah. And he was really persistent. He was a really cool guy, too. I remember that. Yeah. He's got to be much older now, if I imagine.
He is, yeah. He's got to be nearing the end of his run, I would think, you know.
Yeah, that's cool. But awesome. So that's where the concerts are. Nice.
Yeah, the bulk of them are going to Mohegan.
Well, good. I pray to God we either play the XL Center or we play the Mohegan soon.
That would be awesome. All right, Chris, thank you very much. Good luck with the album. I don't think you're going to need it because I think it's going to be great. The reception is going to continue to be phenomenal with it. Once again, the album is called Nature of the Beast. New album by Impellitteri, out October 12th on Frontiers Records. Available at all media outlets everywhere. And check it out. It's awesome. Chris, thank you very much for the time tonight. It's been a blast.
Lance, thank you for taking me down memory road. Good memories, and I'm being sincere. That was really a lot of fun.
Very cool. Thank you very much.
Okay, man.
Bye-bye.
Cheers.